Well, for .NET, obviously, it's the it's the future of the platform in a certain sense. It's like by moving to .NET, in general, leaving aside language, obviously, positioning yourself on .NET positions yourself for the future Longhorn, all those other things. So, and then moving to .NET, it's like there's sort of there's several different pitches depending on the person. I mean, if you're a VB6 person, it's like you're going to find VB is the most comfortable. I mean, it's just like, yeah, you could relearn the language. You could do C# or C++, curly braces. It's going to look completely different. It's going to work differently. VB, so there's sort of the heritage argument, which is really powerful in a lot of cases. It's, you're going to find a familiar face. And it's going to be a lot more familiar than it was prior to Whidbey. I mean, in a certain sense, I feel like, we kind of got our fingernails on the on the cliff with the first one, and it's like now it's like, okay, we had a couple years to kind of finish off things like Edit and Continue, things like that. And then, just in general, it's like I think VB, if I use VB, and I use it because it's easy to use and really productive. I find it more productive than C#. I find it more comfortable. It's just, I don't know, it's like, I want to say, it's a more friendly language. I don't know. It's like, it seems like, C#, in the C languages, it's like, there seems to be always like, you bump into sharp corners. And at VB, it's like really about trying to be as comfortable and as accepting and easy to use. It's almost, I think the word I use a lot of times is organic, as natural and as organic a process as possible. So, and I think we've made a really good start with it with Whidbey, and it's just going to get better from there. So,
for somebody who's already familiar with Java or C#, there really isn't much of a reason to switch to VB, is there?
Well,
would you have a pitch to them too?
I would say, it's a harder pitch because I think it's so cultural. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, BASIC is, there's just a real prejudice against BASIC in the, sort of official, C groups and, computer science, that's where I was looking, sort of computer science kind of thing. But, as someone who, learned BASIC at the beginning, then, worked in Pascal, worked in C++, worked in C, our compiler's written in C. I love working in VB. It's like I prefer to write it, and it's just, it's one of those things where the pitch would be like, really, you should give it a shot. Just give it a try, spend some time on it, you'll really like it, that kind of thing. But it is one of those difficult things where it's like, with C# and VB both being on .NET, we're both .NET languages, it's like, there aren't that many big ticket items where it's like, oh, well, you just can't do this in the other language. I mean, that's, if there was something like that, we would do, we're kind of locked in this, mutual, exactly, we come up with a great idea, they're like, hey, that's a great idea, they come up with a great idea, yeah, that's so it's again, it's like, I think the differentiation going forward is not so much in terms of things you can or can't do, but the philosophy and sort of how much we'll do for you, how easy it is, and sort of I guess maybe a better way to put it is sort of your development methodology, how you approach programming. And there's some methodologies that are just real natural in C# that aren't going to be as natural in VB. And then there's some that are in VB that are just not going to be as natural in C#. And so,
give us some examples.
Well, I think that probably the easiest one is that VB is really first of all, VB is really iterative in a way that doesn't. I mean, C#. It's one of those things you can do it in C#, but it's sort of like with Edit and Continue. Huge arguments among the C# and VB sort of crowds about that, because for me it's entirely natural. I write my program, I've got it going, I run it, and then I realize, oh, this is done wrong. I'm just going to change it here and keep running, and just since it's kind of that scripting idea of you're always running the code, and oh, hey, I wrote this little routine, and I'm just going to execute it to verify that it works, and that kind of thing. As opposed to I don't know if it's more there's a way in which C# is more natural for the, okay, I'm gonna architect my whole application on the whiteboard first, and I'm gonna think about how all the pieces fit together, gonna design the interfaces. Now I'm gonna sit down and start coding, and so. You can do one in either one, but I think that C# they sort of try to optimize that sort of experience, whereas VB is trying more to optimize the, not that I'm not going to think about what I'm doing, but, which is a rap we get, but that, I'm just going to, I'm going to make it up to some degree as I go along. I'm going to do a little bit, try it out, do a little bit more, try it out, that kind of thing. So, and then NetQT is a big example of that.
Right.
And I had another thing, but I can't think of for the life of me. Well, and then just the, other things, like, for example, we did a lot of work in the 2002 to, basically be running the compiler all the time. So as you make errors, you see them right there. And it's so that I always find that annoying when I use C#. It's like, what, I have to build to get my errors? What? So it's just things like that.